feel that there is something different. There is a change. It seems to be that there are very good times for the GBS because the companies understand and believe in the GBS model. We saw it in the many of the projects with the GBS is growing, new are appearing, a lot of new processes.
You had a couple of intuitions based on what was happening and on your observations. So what are the key 2-3 findings from the report?
One of the findings is that we see that the expectations of the GBS is being closer to the business. First, just be expected to do more business-related functions, or like marketing, production planning, or even legal services for the real business processes. Second, that GBS are supposed to reporting the end-to-end KPIs, even they are not performing whole of the process, but the reporting is there, meaning that they are more powerful. And third one, that's expectation that GBSs are full of the data and how this data can be used in the business decision support. Everyone have a lot of intuition, but here it's very important to confirm the intuition by the data. In this report, we believe we confirm our assumptions that the GBS sector is growing and moving to this more comprehensive way. What we see, there are a lot of pioneers who are already there, but what is very important and could be very valuable for the report, for the GBSs, for the centers who are not already there, that they can confirm and show what is the direction and to whom they could follow.
When you look at the dynamics of the industry and GBS is in Kraków, this has been rather impressive, it's fair to say, I suppose.
Yeah.
There are huge variables now, like the war in Ukraine, the pandemic in the past 2 years. So if you look ahead for the next 3 to 5 years, what is your first impression?
It's going to be overwhelmingly successful. But I'm hoping that GBSs will do things differently than corporations used to do in their mother organizations, in their headquarters. Again, no one way, just do it quicker, deliver faster, in less corporate way.
So what you're essentially saying between the lines is the more flexibility and the more tailored your understanding
more
of...
agile.
More agile.
Quicker means also without the whole corporate entourage and long decision making. You know what we do sometimes? We sometimes don't ask for permission, right? We do something, we do the project, and then we choose to say sorry afterwards. And then the result is very often pretty amazing.
So it would be fair to say that it's more of a startup culture in a way, isn't it?
If you can create such, that's great. It's all about the leadership. I'm enjoying great leadership here at Amway, both in terms of my senior leaders in the corporation that give us a lot of freedom and trust, and also the leadership that I have here in our Kraków center, both mine and those that are just co-located.
Wojciech, why are we here at Amway in the context of the key findings of the adaptive report, the future of GBSs?
Well, I hope that the reason for the visit in here is that we might be a good example of a center that is a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of maturity in some areas. I mean, there is probably no one center that is ahead of the curve of everyone in every aspect. But I think we do have a couple of areas like finance, or like the breadth of our services to our corporation, that makes us a little bit further ahead, compared to the median of maturity. This future was just not possible to predict, that Kraków will service the whole west world of Amway and fully end-to-end. I mean, end-to-end is it's a pretty fluffy word because everybody's using that, but I didn't see a lot of places where it's really done, right? In here it is. If you would ask me, there are different ways of GBSs to be more mature. Some will choose one way or one function, some will choose geographic scope, some will choose going deeper into analytics, into process mining, data mining, and so on. Some will choose value-added aspect of being a GBS. There's a lot of ways you see GBSs expanding. Amway GBS is, I think, leading the bunch in maturity of finance, where all the finance is already done by GBS. There is no finance client left in the market. So we have chosen to move the whole function into GBS. Not at once. It took us a couple of iterations of our transformations, but that was brilliant. In terms of maturity for the market, well, the best example for me is that the market, so my business, is asking me to support when they are doing a transformation, and that is the recent case of transformation. They come here because they see some expertise is here rather than anywhere else at the corporation. And the third thing is, well, there are functions that just choose this location as a talent pool for their market functions. So for sales support or for marketing, for many, many years they've been here co-locating their staff between other locations and GBS.
In my role at the firm, I'm a US-based partner that is the head of Global Business Services Advisory for the firm. We're here actually to help a client open a center in Krakow. We look at the DNA in the ecosystem in Krakow as being one of the most attractive things from both a talent and a cost standpoint.
So that in itself is good news because the market continues to be growing despite the massive obstacles.
That's right. I'd say COVID obviously has had some obstacles, and obviously the crisis going on, but this is still where people desire to go. And if you look at the talent versus the cost, as I mentioned, it's probably the best place in Europe to be.
If we were to talk about the changes, the shifts in the business models of the past 2 years, what would be your key observations? Because of, well, some of those things were very difficult to predict, like the shift from on-site to online and the current preferences of employees. What are your key observations about the past 2 years?
Certainly no one could have ever predicted this, but from a business perspective, and particularly GBS, I think it's actually elevated its role in the organization. I think right now, because the DNA of GBS is to centralize and standardize, they were more agile. It's now reached the C-suite, where you have a CEO, a COO, a CFO saying, why exactly are we able to close the books? Why are we able to pay the bills? What's going on? Because GBS was looked at as a transactional factory. And now you have those center leads suggesting, well, we are doing it and we're meeting those same quality standards, but we're doing it for less money. And at that point, it is now on the top list of all the CEOs because they've now looked at GBS as a strategic asset versus a transactional factory.
The past 2 years have clearly accelerating a variety of learning processes at GBSs and not only. What about the next 2 years? What would be your key predictions for the future?
Given that the C-suite has recognized, GBS as a viable business partner, I think you'll see expanded scope. That can be front office areas like sales admin. It could be, mid office areas like supply chain or customer service. And even in the traditional back office areas, I think from a reporting standpoint, it exists throughout every function. You're going to start to see those types of skills be in GBS because the business is more comfortable.